Hello, everyone. I am going to be joined by Renee Urbanovich in a moment, and we're going to continue our ongoing conversation on creativity. But first, we're going to do a little meditation. I am getting Renee on now. Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I think it happened. Yay, I was all nervous it was going to be this long drawn out thing again. Hi,
Hi.
in the
It's a
car once
relief to
again.
be here. Yes, in the car. My son's at therapy, so this is my Monday night ritual for now.
I love it.
Um,
Anybody that can
yeah.
look that good sitting in the dark in the car deserves a following of millions.
Thank you. I appreciate Um, yeah, so I wanted to start tonight with a little bit of a sense exploration, sensory meditation.
Here we
Um,
go. I can't wait. Should I
yeah.
shut my light?
No, you don't have to. Whatever you feel comfortable doing. The meditation is really meant to be just like stop and drop and do it, like wherever you are in your car,
Mhm.
especially during this frenetic time. I'm like, I could really use a little bit of grounding right now. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it and then we can chat afterwards.
I
Sound
love it.
good?
I'm ready. Yes, very excited.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a different meditation than usual because we're not going to go inward. We're actually going to go somewhat outward into our senses. Um, and so what we'll do is you can maybe pick one now just so you don't have to get kerfuffled during the meditation itself, is just pick an object near you that you can just grab. Um, it can be a scarf, a stress ball, a pencil, anything really. I'm going to grab this shell that's on my dashboard. Um, and yeah, just have that to work with, whatever
Oh,
that
God.
object is.
So it's a
I
tea.
can't see it.
It's
What is it?
beautiful. It reminds me of your shell. How weird is that? It's a tea holder,
Oh,
a tea bag holder, because I have some tea that I'm going to put in it, but I'll wait.
that's really cute.
So cute.
It's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so we will just kind of shut the eyes for a moment, just for the beginning, and start to let all of the inputs of the day, of the week, of the month kind of disappear as we go within into the stillness, the darkness, the constancy of the inner life. Just letting it all go, letting it all pause. And starting to tune into the breath as it rises and falls. Tuning into the true rhythm of the breath, the true cadence of life. No matter what's going on outside, no matter how fast the world is going, the breath can bring us back to the true cadence of the present moment. And remember to come back to this breath and this cadence throughout the rest of the meditation. And we'll go ahead and we'll open our eyes. And first, we're just going to pick up our object and touch it. You can tune in to the sensations of the fingers, the palm. Is there a texture? Is there a temperature that you're feeling? Is it smooth or rough? Does it feel heavy in the hand? Does it feel light? Is there a gritty texture? Is there a glossy texture? And try not to make lists with the mind about what you're feeling, but actually sense what you're feeling through the fingertips, through the senses. It's not a thought experience, but a sensual experience. And just notice what those sensations evoke in the body, in the emotions, or in the mind. Maybe it feels comfortable, soothing. Maybe it feels a little bit uncomfortable. And just whatever arises, allow it to be. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to push it away. Just be with it. And then we're going to shift from the sense of touch into the sense of sight. And so you may want to bring your object closer so you can really look at the textures, the colors, maybe turning it to see how the light bounces off of it at different angles. Are there details you haven't noticed before? What tiny little nuances can you see now that you're looking closely that you did never see before? What does it evoke for you? Then maybe hold it a bit farther away and see how the object changes. You can move it in close, maybe even closer than before, and see how that changes, how it changes your perception of the object, your relationship to the object, maybe how you feel about the object. And now we'll shift away from sight. And this may not work for most objects, but we're going to try to smell it. We're going to smell our object. We're going to see if there's anything there. It may smell like enamel. It may smell like fabric. It may smell like laundry detergent. Mine smells a little bit like dirt and salt. And if there's no scent, that's okay too. You can just notice the absence of scent and see what that evokes for you. And then shifting away from smell, you can hold your object up to your ear and evoke the sense of hearing. Now I've got a seashell, so I've got the classic classic option for holding it up to your ear, but if your object doesn't evoke sound, that's okay. Maybe you can evoke sound from your object by rubbing your fingertips on it or tapping on it. Feel the texture as an auditory sound rather than a feeling in the fingertips. Feel how that feels in the body. How does it feel to hear something in the body? Does it tingle? Does it tickle? Is it irritating? Is it pleasant? Just be with whatever is arising as you hear your object. And then finally, we'll shift to the final sense, which is taste. Now, of course, if you don't want to taste your objects, feel free to skip this one. But if you want to go for it, go ahead and give your object a taste. Definitely taste salty. And just be with what that taste evokes. So smell and taste are really connected senses, and smell is connected to the limbic system in the body. So it's tied very strongly to emotion and memory. And so doing this can be very evocative. Okay, and then go ahead and put your object down and just sit with how you're feeling after doing that. Don't analyze it, but just feel. Just feel the sensations continuing to arise, the energy state. Feel the quality of the mind and the thoughts, but don't engage with the thoughts themselves. Tuning into the breath as well. What's the breath doing? And then coming back. And we'll close the practice. We can chat about that a bit. So I would love to ask you, Renee, how was that for you?
Surprisingly good as far as bringing me into myself, because sometimes um, in the limited meditation experiences I've had, of course, my mind wanders. I'm not disciplined like some, you know, veteran meditator. And so that's always hard to try and not let your mind wander. And so when my mind wanted to wander this time, being in touch with the sensual, all the senses was very helpful for me. And the most powerful one, I have to say, that surprised me the most was the one was the listening.
Mm.
So basically, there's a lot going on. You know, there's a baby crying in the other room. There's people talking. There's doors opening and closing. And you know, I'm pretty practiced at tuning things out because I have to do things and people live with me, and that's always been the case. But
Mhm.
when I put it to my ear and did what you suggested, which was like rub against it, I heard the rubbing, and it made a noise, and it really, really brought me into just me. I don't know
Mhm.
how. And it reminded me pretty much of like sometimes when you go to bed and you can hear the sheets, even though there's nothing to hear, you hear something when you rub on the sheet. So that's what it reminded me of, and it was calming. So very surprising.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so it reminded me of just like bed, I guess. And what's also weird is I didn't know. I guess when you have tinnitus, you don't know you have it. I didn't know that
Mhm.
this was a thing. I thought everyone had. I thought that's what hearing what like there's just this refrigerator hum all the time.
I mean, it's very common. It's very, very common.
Well, and so now that they told me I had it, I didn't know I had it, but I thought everyone
Yeah.
had that. Now I hear it all the time when it's quiet. And you know,
Yeah.
it's not disconcerting, but it's not calming, it's not soothing. So just to
Sure.
know that when I would do that, that well that makes me hear that instead of the distant hummy you know, ring. It just
Yeah.
made me feel so good. I loved the auditory one, which makes sense because I'm a very auditory person.
Yeah.
I'm a singing person. I sing. I talk a lot. I do listen to sounds. I listen to music. You know, for a living. So it makes sense that when my senses were overcome by this sound, it really calmed me down, like a glass of wine. I'm telling you, it's really
Wow.
strange. Really
That's a
strange.
testimonial right there. I love it.
Yeah,
Um,
very strange.
but yeah, a lot of the things you said resonate a lot with me. So, you know, for one, we so often are hearing so many sounds that like we're being kind of bombarded with sounds, but we're not necessarily listening to them.
Yeah.
So there's a difference of where our ear is picking up that information
Hmm.
versus we're focusing on our awareness and attention on it.
Yeah.
And so when we do that, especially, you know, intentionally like this and with a sound that's so close to the body,
Hmm.
you really feel how sound isn't just a hearing experience, right? You can almost feel, you know, I'm rubbing my finger on this bumpy texture of this shell and actually feeling it in my body as well.
Hmm.
Um, And it really can ground you, because when you're just meditating and you've like got all this noise going on up here and then you close your eyes, you're just sitting in the dark with all that noise going on, right? So when you are able to actually hone in on something and focus on it, that can really ground you in a way that meditation can't, especially, if it's not a practice that you're doing often or whatever. Because so much of what we're, our anxieties or our stress is being up here in the noise
Yeah.
and not being down here in our senses,
Mm-hmm.
um, with what's actually happening in front of us right in this present moment. And with the tinnitus thing, in Ayurveda, that would be like a space element issue, um, which why I think tinnitus is very common. Is there's just so much input, right? There's such an excess of stuff going on, and there's so little space, and sitting in silence, is the only moment when we hear that tinnitus, right? That little ringing in the ear or whatever. And how often do you actually notice it, right? Like you didn't go to your doctor to complain about it, right? They told you about it. So
Yeah, I don't even remember when it started. I have no recollection
yeah,
of being
yeah,
conscious of it in any way.
totally. Yeah. And I think we get acclimated, we don't, you kind of, like if you're a fish swimming in pink water, you think the world is pink, right? So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I really like it. It seems like the inverse of meditation, in a sense. But I'm also a very sensual person. I already, my mom, I mean, I was raised in a house where we paid attention to textures. My mom's an artist. I
Mhm.
mean, textures. I mean, my grandpa has been known to like point to a cow pie and find art in it. Like just one of those families. Like, and you
Yeah.
can't just pass a hawk on a tree without saying, "Oh my God, look at the hawk! Everyone, stop what you're doing!" Something like that. So, I'm already like that. But just going within and focusing on the senses was really powerful. And I do have a little exercise that I do. I have a little lotion uh, like jar that I keep.
Mhm.
And it definitely is from a period in my life that I don't, that I want to reconnect with or whatever. And that brings me a lot of just fondness. And I guess it would be considered peace or tranquility, but I don't know. I don't even want to give it a name. But the olfactory bulb is really close to the housing of the memories. So, and those little things in creativity workshops and stuff, we cook with, butter and cinnamon, and then we bring hairspray and we bring like cigar particles in a little cup, and we have them all lined up, and you take it up, you open the thing and you smell it, and you don't know what it is, and you're not supposed to write what it is. You're supposed to write what it makes you feel.
Mhm.
So, somebody would say if you smelled cigar, then you would, if you didn't like the person that next door to you that had the cigar, you would feel blank. So, in the
Mhm.
hairspray, you would feel blank, and the cinnamon smell of cinnamon cooking, you would feel blank. So, it's going to trigger something in you. And the fact that obviously this didn't taste like anything, but I totally put it in my mouth, and it
Mhm.
reminded me of like flesh, because flesh kind of doesn't taste. So it's like how weird that we use dishes all the time, and I've never once thought, what does this dish taste like? What does this cup taste like? And
Right.
it's made of
Yeah, and
it's made of
putting it, yeah,
and I
totally.
never in my whole life ever thought to taste the plate or the cup. The cup, I mean, you put your tongue on it. How many times in my
Right. You're
life have I
you're tasting it, but you're not actively tasting it.
right, right. So it was
Yeah.
a really great exercise. My goodness. Lots of
Yeah.
interesting, not what are they called? Discoveries, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me a bit of just being like a baby. You're gonna just put it in your mouth. Like this is how you engage with the world as a baby, right? You're gonna put it in
Yes.
your mouth. You're gonna touch it. You're gonna like rub it on your face. I remember when I was a kid, there were just little sounds that used to give me so much pleasure. Um, Kind of like ASMR, if you know what ASMR is. But like, for instance, even still to this day, when the heater turns on, like the central heating in my house, it just gives me this comforting, safe feeling because it reminds me of the winter in my childhood home and Christmas time approaching and the heat being on. and just feeling like perfectly safe and held. And, you know, those little sounds, just those little things can be so evocative if we just slow down enough to hear them. And then the beautiful thing is we don't have to go chasing dopamine hits, you know, to
Yeah.
get these beautiful moments.
Yeah.
Like I was just in a mall and it's, you know, a sensory like feast, you could say,
Overload.
or even overload, right?
Overload.
Depending on how you're feeling. And just coming back to this is so grounding in compared to that experience, you know? Um, and if we can get pleasure from tasting and touching and looking at a shell, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
like we don't need to be chasing anything else, you know, and that's the real beauty of it.
Well, and I mean, I don't know what happens when you practice it regularly. If you would just find objects, um, I don't know. Like I just grabbed what was in front of me, so I don't know if I wanted to make a
Sure.
practice of it, how I would, go about it.
Yeah, I mean, I like doing it similarly to like Julia Cameron in her book in The Artist's Way. So she talks about the artist states where you can just take yourself on these dates for your senses, basically. Um, but this can just be really like reverting to a child,
Hmm.
reverting being, you know, a dysphomism for what I think is something much more sacred than that. But you know, walking down your street, even if you're, you know, you live in a suburb or you live in the city, just walking down the street and you see a leaf that catches your eye, you know, just tuning in on that
Yeah.
level that a child would, you know,
Yeah.
pick up the leaf, crinkle it,
Yeah.
feel it, touch it, smell it, crumble it, does it break, you know, or take it home and put it in your collection like my son does with everything he finds. He comes home with sticks and nuts and all kinds of things in his backpack every day, clunking
How
around
cute. Yeah.
in the dryer.
And that's a
Yeah,
very artistic thing to do too, because someone like my mom or my brother, they pick things up thinking, oh, I'm going to use this for this, or I'm going to use this for this. Like they think it's beautiful, and then they have to concretize it into something
right.
with a message or a feeling or um, you know a concern in their art.
Sure. Yeah, and I get in that headspace too sometimes with art, and that's why I really, really don't like to like make projects for myself with art. I just like to let it ebb and flow because I
Hmm.
don't want to turn it into a linear, like, oh, I need to get this done or I need to, you know, whatever. But one thing I like to do with my son is to just have a nature collection, we call it. And it's just either like a bowl or a little serving platter that's kind of on display. And we'll just kind of put the findings of the week or the month or whatever in there, and eventually it gets too cluttered and I'll clear it out and
Yeah.
then the next one come, you know. So it's like a limbo space for them where they can be revered for
Yeah.
a bit
Yeah.
longer, you know, they get to be enjoyed,
A
and then they
little
move
shrine,
on.
like a
Yeah,
shrine.
exactly. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Sweet. What a great practice for the kid and the mom. And then you have that moment of reflection in your week or your day or your month, your life. Because without reflection, right? You got to kind of reflect. So,
Yeah, and then it, you know, it's a litmus as well because I'm like, you know, maybe 3 months go by and the nature collection is like a heap, and I'm like, wow, I haven't paid any attention to this, you know.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like a watermark, a gauge.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then I don't beat myself up about it. It's just, oh, okay, things have been going fast. I haven't been paying attention to
Mhm.
this little thing, you know?
When I was really young, we would paste things into these books my mom would get, they're like big blank books, but they had really good, paper, and you would find a leaf and you would, glue it in or tape it in, or what's that stuff, the ironing stuff my mom used to have? I don't know. You could iron it and it would stick like contact paper, I guess, but
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, and we would
Just
save
decorative
stuff like
content.
that. But I like and then I grew out of that. Like I don't want all this shit everywhere, right? But I really like the idea of just having a nice big ceramic bowl or a plate or a tray, and then having something to sort through for reflecting and recollecting that day that we found that or whatever.
Mhm.
Because half
Yeah,
the time we go back in our journals anyway, because they're in a trunk in the attic.
totally.
So
Exactly. Just taking up space. Yeah, another one I like is like a shadow box where you can just have it hanging on the wall. or, have a little set of like little mini shelves, almost like an advent calendar or something,
Yeah, yeah.
um, that you're just moving things through, especially because that doesn't take up space on a surface, and surface space can be such a prime real estate in a household.
I
So
know, right?
yeah,
But I like the sorting too, like when you said sometimes you have to throw some of it away. I think that that kind of attitude is really good too, to let go of certain things and not keep them, because you can't keep everything for 75 years. You can't.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And if you
Yeah,
are
and
going to
with the
save,
shadow, sorry, go ahead.
oh, and if you are going to save stuff, it degrades the good stuff, not the good stuff, but the real valuable stuff if you're just going to save trash in the same tray, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why I like doing it, because it feels almost seasonal. So like with the shadow box hanging on a wall, you can come in and say, "Oh, it's spring and this is our spring shadow box." And then it, just naturally moves on, and now it's the summer shadow box, and then it moves on and it's the fall shadow box with leaves and,
Mm-hmm.
pine cones, and then it's winter, and,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole other set of things there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
so,
it's a very sensory way to document your nature walks and your
mhm,
times together. It's not just going today, comma, I went on a long walk, and you're describing it. But when you save an item from it, as we've been talking about, there's a texture to it, there's a smell to it, there could be a taste to it, there's a memory to it. It's very, very sensory stimulating.
totally. And it's a way also to be in touch with the cycles of nature,
Yeah,
if you do it in that way, especially like intentionally kind of setting it up for each season. But even if you're not intentionally doing it, it just does it
yeah.
naturally.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And the weird thing is here's another funny thing. I got this, and I was when I when I was going to turn it around and look at the back, I expected it to say, what do you think I expected it to say? Made in
Main China?
Made in China. And
Yeah.
I looked really close because, it's hard to see because it's in white. It's made in Italy. And I was like, oh,
Mm,
it's more, it's made in Italy. I'm Italian. This is very important. This is more important to me now. I had a reaction. It's so weird, but I
yeah.
never would have
Yeah.
paid attention to the back of that little tea thing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
And
there's so much there. I love that. Like that could be a segue into talking about like ancestry and our connection to the ancestral knowledge and wisdom
yeah,
and history and everything. But
yeah.
but
Even
I
if it
love
was
just
just a second, it was this little spark, a second of that,
right.
just a little
Yeah.
spark during my
Totally.
meditation. Yeah,
But
yeah.
and how rich is that? How evocative and how rich, and like you never would have noticed that. You never would have had that moment of like identification with your history, with your lineage. Um, and that's what paying attention affords us is
Yeah.
such a richness that we don't have to go looking for it. It's literally like there's a tree and a hill in front of me. Like there's a million things on that hill that could be fascinating.
Mhm. Um, well, you think of people that have been imprisoned and that can't even look out the window, and they figure things out to keep their minds sane. I don't know how they do it. You know,
Yeah.
there's there's something called tapping, which
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know anything about it. I've just seen it a couple times on videos. That's supposed to do that sensory calming. So you have the fingers tapping the chest or whatever, and you have a rhythm. So
Hmm.
you're using your senses to calm yourself. And I think that one of the videos that I saw, they were teaching it to elementary school kids in danger of gangs and stuff, to help them with their emotions. So this kind of reminds me of that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So my understanding of tapping, I've done it a little bit with my son and a little bit myself, just, as a practitioner, like a, user, I guess, or a
Yeah, yeah.
consumer. Can't think of a better way to say that. But it engages the marma points, like it's activating the marma points or
Oh.
the meridians.
Uh-huh,
I'm
uh-huh, uh-huh,
pretty
uh-huh.
sure,
Hmm.
that it's a part of that science. But it doesn't have to be so heady, because you're just like maybe you're tapping here at the third
Hmm.
eye, or you're tapping here at the eyebrow, or this is another one. And often like you'll be saying an affirmation or like I am calm and I am
Hmm.
rested, I am, whatever. And it is just another way to get in the body and
Yeah.
out of the head. Like,
Hmm.
oh, look, I have a face. Remember that? I have a
Hmm.
face, and I have a cheek and my cheek
Hmm.
feels things. Like how often do we just let our sense organ, this is our skin is our biggest organ,
Yes.
and it wants to feel. That's its job. That's what it does. It's why it exists, you know?
It
It
wants to
wants to
feel.
feel.
It's its
Yeah, like a
job. I
dog
love it.
wants to bark, you know?
Hmm.
And so when we give it that food, that sensory food, we're doing a great service to not only our body, but our psyche.
Well, yeah, on a physical level, like just the whole oxytocin released when you're hugged, or the toxins released when you get a massage, or just doing the fascia rolling on the floor and smashing your flat fascia against the tile or the hardwood. All of that serves not only your psyche but physical your physical landscape of your brain and your fascia and
Mhm.
all of it. There's just so many benefits to it. But I love that I can tell when I haven't given my skin enough attention, it starts to hurt.
Yeah, yeah. I get that as well. Or if I'm too engaged in my head or on the computer or whatever, I can feel my skin tighten.
Mm.
It's really
Well, I wish
interesting, like
my
the
skin
tension
would
in
tighten
the
a little
face.
bit.
Yeah, but it's not it's like a too tight, like an almost dry kind of feeling.
Hmm.
It's tension, but it's like dermal tension, I guess, you
Well, it's
know?
because you're tuned in for sure. It's definitely because
Yeah.
you're tuned
Well, and that's the other benefit is living this way, doing these things. And I'm not some, expert at this either. Like I get super distracted. I get,
in. No, no,
that's why
no.
I do it, right? Like
Right. Well, because
that's
it's
why I
working
do
for
it.
you. I love that. Like when someone goes on a diet, which, I've been on, I can't count. It's
Yeah.
40 years of dieting. I can't even count how many diets. But when you find one that's working, and they all work if you do them, then you can tell everybody, oh, you got to try this diet. You got to try this diet. Because when you find
Yeah,
something that works for you, you want to share with other people. So this whole
exactly.
idea, this beautiful meditation was surprisingly, I shared everything already. I don't need to reiterate it, but nice 3 or 4 nice new discoveries that I didn't expect one bit.
I love that. That
Too.
is perfect. Like that word, the heading for the day, discovery. Like that's what life is, right? Is this beautiful sensual experience. We're in a body, so we can have this beautiful sensual embodied experience. And the world around us is just a playground waiting to be engaged with,
Yay.
you know?
Love that.
It's yeah,
It's a very hopeful attitude as opposed to denying and all the stuff we talk about from our past religious experiences. So
really.
I'm gonna hang
Yeah.
my hat on that. Love it a lot. And so put that in the title for me.
Okay. I will.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That was
thank
happy
you.
2021. That's our climax for the 2021. This
Yeah. So we'll
this
be back, I think, on Monday the 3rd, right?
yes,
2022.
yes.
Okay.
And
January
I'm
3rd.
really happy that because we're very heady and we're very theoretical all the time.
Yeah,
This was a great affirmation of our humanity and our
totally.
creativity and our senses, which our senses are the only portal into our creativity and our brains, really. So
Yeah, and into the now, the present moment,
yeah, yeah.
into what is real. Cool.
Here we go. Okay, should
Well,
we just should we just talk about the theoretical now? No, I'm kidding.
no,
Okay,
no.
we'll be done. All right. Happy New
Right.
Year. Happy
Love
holidays.
you.
I
Happy
love you.
holidays.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.